My name's Jessica, I'm 29, and for most of my adult life, I've felt like I've been raising a grown man who isn't even my son. Darren is my younger brother. He's 22, a classic dreamer type, artsy, sensitive, constantly chasing some vague idea of becoming a creative director or multimedia visionary, depending on what podcast he's been listening to that week. Our parents are retired and living the easy life down in Florida, so anytime Darren needs help, financially or emotionally, guess who he comes to? Yeah. Me. And I've helped. God, have I helped. 3 years ago, he told me he wanted to become a graphic designer and got into this online design academy that promised career-ready skills in 10 months. He needed money for tuition. I gave him $5,000. He finished 2 modules, got bored, and quit. Said the assignments killed his inspiration. A year later, he claimed he'd found the one, some boutique creative program in Seattle. He needed a new laptop and upfront costs. I gave him $7,000. He bought a $2,500 custom-built PC for editing, subscribed to a bunch of design tools he never used, and ghosted the program after 6 weeks. I didn't even find out until the school emailed me about his failure to complete the semester. When I confronted him, he shrugged and said, it just wasn't the right fit. So I told him I was done. I made it clear, no more money unless he showed me real progress. Not ideas, not promises. Proof. He didn't take it well. Called me cold. Said I didn't believe in him. Then he sulked for a few months before moving in with our cousin Taylor, who has a soft spot for lost causes. I thought maybe that was it. But I should have known better. This past spring, he came back. Texted me late one night like nothing had ever happened. The message was long, full of energy and new beginnings. Said he'd been accepted into Northgate Creative Institute in California. A private college, super niche, super expensive. He included a link to the program and a Google Doc breaking down the costs. Tuition, $12,500 for the first semester. Only $1,800 for housing if he could find a roommate. Said it was a hybrid program so he could work part-time on the side. He made it sound really professional. I'll give him this, the message was well written. Passionate. Convincing. I actually paused for a second and thought, maybe this time. Then I remembered the $12,000 I'd already lost to his past, this time for real declarations. And I remembered how he spent $300 on a creativity retreat, where he mostly just smoked weed in Joshua Tree and came home with a sunburn and a sketchbook full of eyes. So I told him no. It wasn't emotional. I kept it respectful. I said I was proud of his persistence, but I couldn't be his backup plan every time he changed direction. That I had my own goals to worry about. That I hoped he found a way, but that way wouldn't be through me. He didn't respond. Not for 3 days. Then Taylor called me. She tried to be diplomatic at first, said Darren had been working hard, really focusing. That this was different. That I should just consider helping, even just a portion. I asked her, would you give him $12,500? She laughed awkwardly. Then said, well, no, I can't, but you can. Exactly. I stood firm. No yelling. No guilt-tripping. Just told her, I'm not doing this again. 2 weeks passed. No word from Darren. No passive-aggressive memes, no texts, no vague Instagram posts about fake people. I figured maybe he'd accepted it. Maybe we'd just go low contact for a while and let things cool off. Instead, something else happened. I bought a car. My old car, a silver 2010 Honda Civic, was on its deathbed. The AC was shot, the engine made this wet coughing sound, and the windows didn't roll down anymore. I'd been driving it since college. I'd been saving for a year, waiting for the right time. And finally, with my recent bonus and a few freelance gigs stacked, I did it. I bought a 2024 Audi Q5. Midnight blue. Cream leather interior. All the bells and whistles. And let me be clear, this wasn't a flex purchase. This was a reward. For myself. For surviving all the years of scraping by and putting everyone else first. For not draining my account for yet another one of Darren's grand plans. I felt good. Better than I had in years. Posted a pic of it on my Instagram. Just me, leaning against the hood with a coffee, new sunglasses, and the sun hitting the paint like something out of a car commercial. Caption: when you stop paying for people who don't even try, you can finally live. #New Whip Energy. Was it subtle? No. Was it personal? Absolutely. I didn't tag him. I didn't name him. But he saw it. Of course he did. 2 hours later, someone started banging on my apartment door like they were trying to knock it off the hinges. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach drop. Darren. I opened the door slowly. He pushed past me without saying a word, walked straight into the living room, and spun around with his arms raised like he was on a reality show. A fucking Audi, Jess? That's where your money went? I just stood there. You couldn't spare a few grand for me to build a future, but you had no problem buying yourself a luxury car? His voice was shaking. Eyes red, hair wild like he hadn't slept. I didn't say anything at first. I was too stunned. You always talk about how people should work for what they have. I'm trying. I'm actually trying this time, and you just gave up on me. I finally said, Darren, I didn't give up. I stepped back. There's a difference. He laughed. Bitter. Cruel. Nah. You just got tired of pretending to care. Then he looked around, saw the keys on the counter, and scoffed. Hope the leather seats keep you warm at night. And with that, he walked out. No goodbye. No drama. Just that line, sharp and cutting, and the door slamming behind him. I stared at the door for what felt like 10 minutes. My hands were still shaking. And even though I knew I'd made the right choice, something in me cracked. The silence after Darren left didn't last long. That same night, he posted something on his Instagram story, black background, white text, the usual melodramatic font. Some people would rather flex their money than support someone trying to build a future. Family means nothing when your ego's louder than your heart. Then came the tagged photos, screenshots of the Northgate Creative Program's website, his acceptance email, a picture of some basic dorm room layout. And then, of course, a blurry zoomed-in shot of my car from the street, half-cropped, with the caption. This could have been my tuition. It spread fast. Our cousin Taylor reshared it with some heartfelt caption like, so proud of Darren for staying strong despite everything. Dreams matter. A couple of his old high school friends commented things like, that's cold AF, and, damn, can't even trust blood. I started getting texts. Some from numbers I hadn't used in years, people I vaguely remembered from high school or college, suddenly very interested in the private decisions I made with my own money. One message from an old family friend said, I know it's not my business, but I always thought you were more generous than that. What the hell? The weirdest part was the shift. I had gone from being the reliable sister, the one who bails Darren out, the one who puts others first, to some caricature of a selfish yuppie overnight. And all it took was a few cropped images and one bitter Instagram caption. I wanted to ignore it. Really, I did. But then my mom called. Now let me paint a picture. My mom is not confrontational. Not even slightly. Her biggest form of protest growing up was forgetting to make dinner when she was mad. So when she called with a voice sharp and tight, I knew Darren had gotten to her. Jessica, honey, why is Darren saying you refused to help him with school? I took a breath. Counted to 3. Because I did. I've already helped him. Multiple times. He blew it, every single time. I told him no because I'm not a bank, Mom. She sighed, that kind of long-suffering breath that always meant she was trying to pick a side and failing. He says this school is different. That it's real this time. I laughed. Not kindly. It's always real this time. And when it isn't, he disappears until the next dream hits. I'm done funding his failures. Silence. Then she said. You could have at least talked to him before buying a car that flashy. I froze. Excuse me? It's just. Darren feels like you made a show out of not helping him. The post, the caption. I mean, it was kind of pointed, Jessica. That's when something in me snapped. He's been bleeding me dry for 4 years. Thousands of dollars, all gone into nothing. No degree, no job, no results. And now because I finally spend something on myself, I'm the villain. Are you serious? She didn't respond. Just said, I think you two should talk. And hung up. I stood there for a while after. Phone still in my hand, heart pounding. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Not logically. But the gaslighting was so thick, it started to feel like maybe I was the crazy one. Like maybe I had kicked a man while he was down. Maybe I had been too harsh. Then my phone dinged again. A DM. From a girl I didn't know. Hi. I follow Darren. I just wanted to say I think what you did was disgusting. No one should be left behind by their own sister. I blocked her. 5 minutes later, I unblocked her and responded. No one should live off their sister until 22 and call it ambition. Then I blocked her again. I was starting to lose my grip. That night, I stayed up late. Scrolled through all of Darren's tagged posts, his sad little sob story building momentum, reshared by random people who didn't know a damn thing about me or what I've done for him. Meanwhile, I sat in my apartment, the same one I pay for alone, thinking about how one moment of self-care had turned me into a public punching bag. The next day, I posted again. I took a better photo this time. Daylight, a full view of the Audi parked perfectly in front of my building. I was in the shot too, heels, blazer, sunglasses on. I looked like someone who knew their worth. Caption. When you stop funding other people's excuses, you start affording your own peace. No regrets. That was the line. That was the one that cracked it open. My DMs lit up. Some people loved it, clapped, cheered, reposted. Others dragged me through the mud, called me heartless, classist, narcissistic. A few even messaged Darren, then screenshotted his replies and sent them to me. He was milking it. Telling people I cut him off emotionally and financially. That I dangled success in front of him and snatched it away. That I was obsessed with being better than everyone. And to top it off, he made a TikTok. No words. Just sad music, clips of his art, a blurry scan of the Northgate acceptance email, and a stitched clip of me getting into the Audi, clearly taken from across the street without my knowledge. Captioned. This is what disappointment looks like. It got 26,000 views in 2 days. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I went to work, logged into my client meetings, hit all my deadlines, and kept building my real life, not the sob story version. That weekend, I went on a road trip. Just me and the car. Windows down, music blasting, wind in my hair. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. But of course, Darren wasn't done yet. I thought the TikTok would be the worst of it. But Darren's bitterness doesn't have a bottom. By Monday morning, I walked into work already drained. Even my boss noticed. You look like someone who just found out their house is haunted. She meant it as a joke, but honestly, I felt haunted. By Instagram stories, by TikTok comments, by whispers behind DMs from people who used to call me inspiring. I'd been publicly framed as the selfish sister who abandoned her struggling brother to buy herself luxury. The kicker? Some of it stuck. A client I worked with on a rebranding campaign, a soft drink startup run by 320-something disruptors, ghosted me after liking Darren's TikTok. I wish I were kidding. I followed up twice, then got a single reply from the co-founder. Hey Jess. Love your work, but we're gonna go in another direction. No hard feelings. I knew that tone. The tone of people who wanted you gone but didn't have the spine to say why. I checked the guy's Instagram later. He was following Darren. I don't even think they'd ever met. By Wednesday, things hit a new low. I got a text from Taylor, not a call this time, not even a voice note. Just a long, typed-out message. Jess. I tried to stay out of this, but honestly, the way you're handling everything is really disappointing. You knew how much that school meant to him. You didn't just say no, you humiliated him. That post wasn't about your car. It was about proving you're above him. And you made sure everyone saw it. I love you, but you've changed. I didn't reply. What could I even say? I stared at the message for a full hour. Then I deleted it. Then I blocked her. I don't have room in my life for people who only support me when I'm giving. I'm not a walking Kickstarter campaign. I'm not the family bailout fund. And I'm damn sure not a villain for finally keeping something for myself. But it didn't stop there. Friday morning, as I was getting coffee on my way to work, I heard someone behind me say, "Is that her?" I turned, just two girls, early 20s, sitting outside with iced lattes and yoga pants. One of them was holding her phone up like she was pretending to take a selfie, but the camera was angled right at me. I stared at her. Dead on. She smiled nervously. Then the other girl whispered something, and they both laughed. I'd gone viral. Not for something I did, but for something someone said about me. The worst part? I hadn't even been given a name. Just a role. Older sister with no soul. Saturday, Darren escalated again. He started a GoFundMe. Help Darren build his future, since his family won't. That was the actual title. The story was written in this pity-soaked tone like he was some poor orphan trying to claw his way into the light. He mentioned me directly. Not by name, but by role. My sister, who has the means to help, chose to flaunt her wealth instead. I'm still proud of her success, but I wish she saw mine as worth supporting. He included clips from the Northgate course preview, photos of his sketches, a fake quote from one of his professors, I later confirmed, doesn't exist, and a sad little line at the end. Anything helps. Even $5 gets me closer to freedom. He made $1,200 in 3 days. People were commenting stuff like, "Your sister will regret this when you're famous. Don't let bitterness hold you back, rise above her. She can't stop what God already blessed." I wanted to scream. Not because he was raising money, let him hustle, fine, but because he was rewriting the narrative in real time, and no one cared about the receipts. No one cared about the truth. They just saw a shiny car and a sad boy. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what happened on Monday. I pulled into the parking garage at work and saw something on my windshield. At first I thought it was a flyer, some new burger place or dog grooming promo. Nope. It was a printed out photo of me getting into the Audi, with "Enjoy your leather seats, Judas" written across it in red Sharpie. I stood there for a solid minute, holding that paper like it was evidence in a murder trial. That was the moment it stopped being a social spat. That was when it got real. I filed a building report. Checked the garage cameras. No clear view. HR got involved. Security was notified. But honestly, it didn't matter. I already knew who it was from. Darren didn't have to be the one who wrote it. But he was the one who lit the match. That night, I went home and sat in my car for almost an hour. Just sat there. Windows up. Music off. Silence. I stared at the dash, at the clean leather interior, at the glowing lights. It had been a symbol of freedom a week ago. Now it felt like a crime scene. That's when I decided something. I wasn't going to play defense anymore. If Darren wanted to turn this into a story, fine. I'd write the next chapter myself. But not in sadness. Not in apology. I wasn't going to shrink. I was going to burn brighter. So I crafted a post. Simple, elegant, clean. Just a selfie in the car, wearing lipstick and sunglasses, coffee in hand. Caption. Nothing is louder than someone who's used to being paid for their silence. When you finally stop paying, they start screaming. No tags. No location. No names. But oh, they knew. The post went live at 8:07 p.m. By 8:12, it had over 400 likes. By 8:20, my DM inbox was divided into two categories, people cheering me on like I'd just returned from battle, and people accusing me of being manipulative, calculating, PR perfect. Someone even called me the Elizabeth Holmes of sibling drama, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. But there was a shift. A subtle, undeniable shift. People were starting to get tired of Darren's story. The comments under his GoFundMe slowed. His reposts were no longer hitting virality. The sad piano music started to wear thin. The aesthetic of victimhood, it turns out, has an expiration date, especially when you push it too hard. And Darren? He noticed. 3 days after my post, he DM'd me directly. First time since the night he stormed into my apartment. Real mature, Jess. You really want a public war? I didn't respond. He followed it with, enjoy your fake support. They'll eat you next. Still didn't respond. That weekend, I got a notification from GoFundMe. Darren's campaign had been reported for inaccurate fundraising description. I didn't report it, but someone had. Multiple people, apparently. They froze the funds. He posted a story. Some people are so afraid of others rising that they'd rather burn everything down. But it didn't hit like it used to. The likes were lower. The shares? Quiet. You could feel it, the audience wasn't clapping anymore. They were watching. Then came the podcast. I didn't even know Darren had agreed to appear on one until someone sent me the link. A D-list, young creatives podcast called Urban Grind Sessions, hosted by some guy named Kobe who wears beanies in 110 degrees heat and thinks everyone over 30 is corporate brainwashed. The episode was titled, Family Doesn't Mean Forever, Breaking Generational Neglect. Darren spent 28 minutes talking about toxic money dynamics and emotional abandonment, dropping phrases like generational trauma and narrative suppression like he'd swallowed a thesaurus. He never said my name, legally smart, I guess, but it was obvious. He made himself sound like some tortured genius, denied greatness by a sibling who chose capitalism over connection. I listened to the whole thing in my living room, wine in hand, alternating between laughter and rage. Not because it was well done, but because he was actually starting to believe his own fantasy. He ended the episode with this line. The people who look the most successful are often the ones who abandoned the most behind them. I nearly choked. I thought that would be the peak of it. But I was wrong. A few days later, I got a text from my old college roommate, Amber. We hadn't talked in over a year. Last I knew, she was freelancing in Denver. Hey. Super random. Are you and your brother the ones all over my Twitter feed right now? I blinked. Twitter? She sent me a screenshot. Someone had taken clips from Darren's TikTok and pieced them together with parts of my Instagram captions, overlaying dramatic music and red font. It was formatted like a short documentary, When Blood Fails, The Cost of Choosing Yourself. A tweet with it said, this is why older siblings in capitalist systems are sociopaths. 12,000 likes. The comments? Wild. Rich girl energy is a disease. Imagine watching your brother drown and tossing him car keys. Not all villains wear capes. Some drive Autos. I closed the app and threw my phone across the couch. I didn't cry. I wanted to. But it was a dry kind of anger. Tight and sharp, like a blade across bone. It wasn't just unfair, it was absurd. And yet, it was happening. So I did something I didn't expect myself to do. I called my father. He lives with Mom now, both retired in Florida, doing their best impression of people who never had kids. He answered on the second ring. Hey, Jess. His voice was calm. Warm, even. Like he knew this call would come. I told him everything. The posts, the podcast, the fake quotes, the donations, the TikToks. The note on the car. The podcast line. I just unloaded it, one detail at a time. He listened. Didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a pause. Then. You know what I think, sweetheart? What? You stopped feeding the wolf. So now it's howling. I exhaled, all the air I didn't know I'd been holding. Do you think I'm wrong? No, he said, without hesitation. I think you're finally doing what I never did. Setting a line. That landed hard. What should I do now? Live your life. Loudly. Happily. That's the part that pisses them off most, when you stop apologizing for surviving. That night, I posted again. Not to clap back. Not to be clever. Just a photo. Me at a rooftop bar with coworkers. Holding a cocktail, laughing mid-sentence, hair in motion. Caption. Healing loudly. No context. No war. And this time, something changed. The comments were full of women. Sisters. Ex-girlfriends of Darren's. Former, emotional ATMs. They filled my inbox with messages that didn't start with hate, but with relief. This feels like my life. Thank you for showing it's okay to say no. I needed this more than you know. The world hadn't changed. But the noise had. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel hunted. I felt seen. The shift started with silence. Not drama. Not confrontation. Just silence. Darren stopped posting. No stories. No reposts. His GoFundMe quietly disappeared, link dead, campaign gone. His podcast episode was removed too. Not even an announcement, just deleted. It was like he'd vanished. At first, I didn't care. After everything, I'd trained myself not to flinch when his name popped up. But then Taylor messaged me again. This time, no accusations. Just 5 words. He moved out last night. I didn't respond. I didn't ask why. But I knew. The money was gone. The outrage had dried up. The audience had lost interest. And now it was quiet. But silence, I've learned, is rarely peaceful. It just means the fall has finally landed. The next sign came from an unexpected place, my inbox. Not DMs. Not comments. My email. A message titled Apology, from an address I didn't recognize. I opened it. It was from Jordan. Darren's old roommate from when he briefly lived in San Diego, during his "I'm launching a media brand" era. We'd never met, but I remembered hearing about him, artsy, mellow, vegan, big on ethical screen printing. His message was short. Hey Jessica. I just wanted to say I'm sorry I believed the narrative Darren was pushing. I donated to his GoFundMe and even reshared it at one point. I didn't know the full story, and I regret that now. He crashed on my couch last week after getting kicked out of Taylor's. He told me some stuff. I won't repeat it here, but it wasn't okay. Just wanted to say. I get it now. Hope you're doing all right. Jordan. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I needed his apology, I didn't. But because it was the first crack in the mirror Darren had been holding up to the world. The carefully polished, "I'm just a misunderstood artist" image had started to fracture. And through that crack, people were seeing what I'd known for years. Darren wasn't a villain. Not really. But he was entitled. Spoiled by sympathy. Addicted to being the underdog because it meant never being responsible for failure. He loved the struggle, as long as someone else paid for it. And now, with no one left to fund him, he was floundering. The next text came from my mom. Just 3 words. He called me. I replied. And? Said he's looking for work. That stopped me cold. Darren? Work? The boy who once said, "I'd rather die than wear a name tag." The one who told me 9-to-5s were just slavery and khakis? The one who refused to work at the grocery store because the lighting killed his aura? That Darren? Apparently, yes. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. Honestly, I didn't feel much of anything. Just a numb, detached kind of exhaustion. A week later, I found out where. He got hired at a used electronics store just outside the city. One of those places that buys broken phones, resells beat-up consoles, and has a front counter littered with old chargers and lonely HDMI cables. I only knew because someone tagged me in a Reddit thread. Yes. A Reddit thread. r/Austin. Post title, "Is that TikTok guy working at Tech Hub now?" The post showed a blurry photo of Darren in a gray polo shirt behind the counter, clearly annoyed, ringing up some customer. The comments were brutal. Bro was all about anti-capitalism until rent hit. From digital visionary to Xbox trade-in specialist. Character arc of the year. Guess that Audi didn't have a passenger seat after all. I should have felt bad. But I didn't. Because this was the first time in his life he was facing something real, and not just facing it, but doing it without me. And for the first time, I felt the tiniest bloom of something strange. Not pity. Not satisfaction. Just peace. He wasn't texting me. Wasn't blaming me. Wasn't tagging me. He was surviving. Bad lighting, angry customers, no GoFundMe, no podcast mic. Just a minimum wage job and the first honest dollar he's probably ever earned. My mother called again a few days later. Her tone was different this time, quiet, measured. "He's changed," she said. I didn't answer right away. "Or maybe," I said, "he's just starting to grow up." She didn't argue. "He asked about you." That stopped me. "What did he say?" "Just wondered how you were doing." Said he'd been thinking. I waited. Said he knows he crossed a line. But he's not ready to talk yet. Said he wants to have something to show first. That, I didn't expect. The old Darren would have written me a 12-page email full of dramatic apologies, song lyrics, and a Cash App link. But this? Wanting to wait until he had something to show. That was new. I ended the call politely. Didn't promise anything. Didn't pretend to be hopeful. But inside, a weight shifted. He was no longer performing for an audience. No longer casting me as the villain. He was working. Quietly. Maybe even sincerely. The world had stopped clapping. And he'd started listening. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks without a post from Darren. 3 weeks without another viral jab, dramatic quote, or performative healing. 3 weeks of quiet. And then I got a text. From a number I deleted months ago but instantly recognized. "Hey. If you're willing. I'd like to talk. Coffee's on me." I stared at it for a while. No emojis. No clever phrasing. Just a plain sentence, like something written by a person, not a persona. I didn't answer right away. Not out of anger. Not even suspicion. Just fatigue. I had already written the ending to this chapter in my head. It didn't include Darren. But something about that message lingered. Not what he said, but what he didn't say. No excuses. No links. No guilt. Just, "If you're willing." The next day, I replied. "Tomorrow. 11 a.m., Sky Bean Coffee. Public. Neutral. No drama." He replied within a minute. "I'll be there." I got there early. Sat by the window, facing the street. I didn't wear anything fancy, jeans, a black sweater, no makeup, just me. I didn't want armor. I didn't need it. At 11:03, he walked in. He looked different. Not worse. Just real. Tired, underdressed, hair pulled back sloppily into a bun. His jacket was worn at the cuffs. There was a visible coffee stain on his shirt collar. But his eyes? They weren't casting for sympathy. He saw me. Gave a half nod. Walked over. No hug. No dramatics. Just sat down. "Thanks for coming." I nodded. He looked around like he expected to be watched, but no one cared. There were no cameras now. No audience. Just 2 siblings and a table. He took a breath. I was shitty. I said nothing. Like, not just a little. I was a fucking mess. And I hurt you. Publicly. On purpose. Still, I didn't speak. I let the silence stretch. Let him sit in it. He looked down. I kept telling myself you were just trying to control me. That you didn't believe in me. But honestly, I didn't believe in me either. I just wanted someone else to invest so I didn't have to. I felt something hard in me loosen. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the wall moved. He fidgeted with his sleeve, then looked up. I got a job. You probably know that. I do. It sucks. I smirked. He let out a short laugh. But I show up. On time. I don't bail. I don't fake coughs. And I haven't quit. That's something. I tilted my head. That is something. He nodded again. Then reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Slid it across the table. I opened it. A printed invoice. A savings tracker. And at the bottom, a balance. $612. 00, it's not much. But I'm saving. For school. Community college this time. Something real. I stared at it. Not because of the number, but because for the first time, he wasn't asking me for more. He was showing me what he'd earned on his own. I folded the paper and handed it back. Good. He blinked, surprised I wasn't more emotional. But I wasn't here for a moment. I was here for proof. And this time, he brought it. He took a sip of his coffee. I won't ask you for help again. Good, I said. He gave a short nod, then added. I might ask for advice, though. Eventually. If that's still on the table. I leaned back. Let the silence sit. And then said. That depends on the advice. He grinned. It was small, tired, but real. For a moment, we just sat there. No begging. No bitterness. No spotlight. Just two people who finally stopped performing. Before he left, he hesitated. Jess? Yeah. I was wrong. About all of it. Especially, that you don't care. You do. You always did. That's why I resented you. I didn't respond. I just watched him go. As he walked out, I looked down at the table. 2 empty cups. No guilt. No anger. Just coffee and space. The first real conversation we'd had in years. It's strange what lingers after a storm. Not the wind. Not the noise. Just the debris. Bits of what used to be. And silence. After Darren and I met at Skybeam, nothing dramatic happened. No follow-up post. No "look who grew" montage. No public truce. He didn't tag me. I didn't tag him. We just resumed our separate lives. And yet, something shifted. I felt it in how I woke up, no longer checking social media like it was a battlefield. I felt it in how I sat in my car, not bracing for glares from strangers or flyers under my windshield. I felt it in how I opened my laptop, less on defense, more on purpose. Peace, it turns out, doesn't come as a parade. It comes in the form of not looking over your shoulder. My apartment felt different too. Lighter. Like the tension had packed its bags and finally moved out. Even the Audi felt less like a symbol, and more like what it actually was, a damn good car. Still, I wasn't naive. I knew better than to believe one coffee equaled redemption. Darren had a long way to go. A few weeks of clocking in and a budget spreadsheet didn't erase years of entitlement. But it was something. And for once, it wasn't mine to manage. I could finally return to my own life. And when I did, I realized how much of it I had put on hold without even noticing. There were emails from old friends I never answered. Projects I delayed. Even a short story I had been writing, left half-finished because I was too emotionally drained to deal with anything outside of damage control. That week, I called my old friend Amara, someone I hadn't seen since before the whole drama started. We met up for dinner. You look clear, she said, after a few minutes. Like what? Exfoliated? She laughed. No, like, emotionally decluttered. Like someone turned down the volume inside your head. She wasn't wrong. I had spent so long playing caretaker, defender, ATM, punching bag, villain, martyr, that I forgot what it felt like to just be me. No expectations. No performance. No audience. After dinner, Amara asked about Darren, gently, the way true friends do. So, is that whole mess over? I paused. I think it's just quiet now. And that's enough. She nodded like she understood. And then she said something I didn't expect. You know, I always thought it was kinda brave, what you did. Buying a car instead of saving my brother? No. Choosing yourself. Publicly. Loudly. That's not easy for women. Especially not older sisters. That stuck with me. Because until that moment, I hadn't really considered it brave. It had felt cold. Necessary. Defensive. But maybe, it was brave. To draw a line. To not flinch when the world demanded you erase it. To say, this is what I have. And no, you can't have it. A week later, I got an email from my boss. Subject line, new client proposal, you're our lead. I opened it. Read the details. A massive account. One we'd been chasing for over a year. And it was mine. No drama. No strings. Just trust. The same week, I got a package in the mail. No name on the sender. Inside, a used paperback copy of The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. A sticky note on the cover. Thought you might like this. It helped me start. D. I sat on the couch and held it for a while. I didn't text him. Didn't send a heart emoji or a thank you. I didn't need to. It wasn't a gesture meant to pull me back into his orbit. It was a nod. A small, quiet nod. Like saying, I'm still walking. And for the first time since this all began, I believed him. That weekend, I drove out of town. Just me, the Audi, and a playlist of songs I hadn't been able to listen to in months, ones that used to feel like escape, but had become too tangled up in stress. The road stretched out like a clean sheet of paper. No TikToks. No GoFundMe links. No calls from cousins or articles about late capitalist sibling cruelty. Just sunlight, motion, and the sound of my own laughter, real, unfiltered, mine. At one point I pulled over at a viewpoint, climbed out, and sat on the hood of the car. I didn't take a selfie. Didn't post a caption. I just watched the sky shift into gold and thought. This is what it feels like when the noise finally stops echoing. It wasn't victory. It wasn't closure. It was simply after. I didn't see Darren again for a while. Weeks passed. Then months. I knew he was still working. Jordan told me he'd picked up extra shifts, and Mom said he was taking night classes part-time at the local community college. No more fundraisers. No more public statements. He'd fallen off the grid of the internet and, quietly, into real life. I didn't chase updates. But they came to me. Drip by drip. And in their quietness, I healed. Not all at once. Healing never works that way. Some wounds scab. Some reopen without warning. Sometimes you think you're fine, until a song plays, or a memory shows up at 3 a.m. like an uninvited guest. But still, things moved forward. I stopped being angry. Not because Darren apologized, though he did, slowly, in his way, but because the anger served no one. Not him. Not me. It just sat there, bitter and heavy. And one day, I decided I was done carrying it. One morning in early spring, I visited our parents in Florida. I hadn't been back in 2 years. The flight was short, the weather warm, and the air heavy with that familiar, sleepy humidity that makes time feel like it's melting. We sat out on the patio, me, Mom, Dad, drinking weak coffee and watching the lizard skitter across the fence posts. It was peaceful. Eventually, my mom asked if I'd spoken to Darren lately. I shook my head. Not in person, I said. But I see him. She nodded. Didn't push. My dad added. He's changed, you know. I smiled without looking up. So have I. And I had. I was no longer the woman who needed to prove anything. Not to Darren. Not to the internet. Not even to myself. I had built a life. Held it together through resentment, accusation, silence, and public fire. I had watched myself be villainized, dramatized, dissected, and still, I didn't shatter. I sharpened. Not hard. Not cruel. Just clear. That clarity stayed with me when I got home. I spent more time reading. More time alone, not lonely, just whole. I let myself become boring in the best ways. I didn't post as much. When I did, it wasn't for approval. It was just life. A dinner here. A book there. A dog I started fostering, then couldn't give up. Her name's Ivy. She sleeps on the couch like she pays rent. And Darren? One afternoon, out of nowhere, he texted. I got a B+ in my typography course. Professor said my work was disciplined. Thought you'd like that word. I did. Another time, he sent a photo of a sketch. Just a pencil drawing of hands, open, holding nothing. No caption. I replied. You're getting better. He wrote back. So are you. That was all. Not a grand apology. Not some Netflix documentary reconciliation. Just quiet echoes of progress. Two people growing in opposite directions, but not against each other anymore. In the end, we didn't need to return to how things were. We just needed to stop pretending they had to. We were no longer siblings stuck in roles, the dreamer and the provider, the martyr and the mess. We were two adults who had finally learned to stand on their own. And sometimes, that's the best ending you get. Not a hug. Not a speech. Just space. Space to become someone outside the chaos. Space to finally say, this is mine. And it's enough. And it is.